Welcome to the Special Engineering Committee meeting on March 12th at 4:30. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Shall we stand for the pledge? Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Roll call, both directors are here. Is there any changes to the agenda? If not,
A motion to approve?
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Agenda approved. Public comment, is there anybody? Nobody here and nobody online. That takes care of that. Item 3 is approval of the minutes. Did you have any changes?
No, I motion to approve.
Seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Minutes are approved. Item 4 is Oeste Recharge Study Project.
I don't have anything new to update.
All right. Item 5, discussion regarding water system.
Right. Our water meter replacement project has concluded. Every single meter in the district's been changed. We're a completely AMI exclusive district now. Preliminary results coming out of the last couple months' production consumption. There's cause for a good outlook. We've seen that loss rate, although I don't want to speculate, it's too soon. We've seen it a little bit less than historic. I'd like a couple more months of data to accumulate before I'm real comfortable in claiming a victory on that, but hopefully those trends continue. Well 15, we did get our operating permit. It is pumping to the system. It's allowed us to basically shut down the good majority of the east side of our district and also the west. And it's given us some options on looking at reducing pressure throughout the distribution system to hopefully minimize leaks, especially pressure zones 1 and 2. We're working with engineering in the model to see what modifications we can make operationally. We've relieved some pressure off the west side because our larger producing wells no longer have to push east. We were able to shave about 10 psi through some of those transmission lines. No smoking gun, but every little bit helps.
Yeah.
Our well 14 production, there is none. We're down to just the bare necessities for sampling. Our service line replacement program, I noticed, we only have 6 that we've replaced the calendar year to date and 21 through the fiscal. That's a little bit lower than we've done historically, and the reason being we've been really tied up with meters, well projects, and as those are kind of finishing up, we'll be diving back into, and the guys have already service line replacements. Same with air vac maintenance and flushing. Our customer service, now that meters are concluded, they're going to be tasked with air vac maintenance and flushing. And then we're wrapping up kind of the last of a couple of the booster rehabs. The most notable will be Site 2 Booster C. That's because all that new water from well 15 is coming into Site 2.
Yeah.
We chose to upsize Booster C. It failed in the last storm we had. The motor blew up. So we're going to take this opportunity to add about 260 gallons a minute to its capacity to be able to move more of that water out. We just completed all of our production meter efficiencies. So all of our production meters at the wells, source meters, are certified accurate. Same with our booster and well electrical efficiencies. We concluded dead end flushing last month, and we're just about done with our tank washouts, and same with our vegetation mitigation with CAL FIRE. They pretty much have hit every site we have now. And happy to answer any questions.
Did you have any questions or comments?
No. But the pumps and well services agreement, were we going over that in item 5? Is that what I saw as an attachment?
That was more to
was that-
the, part of the package for the 3 different scenarios for,
Okay,
I believe. Is that correct?
It's probably more applicable under number 5. We did bring, sorry, let me get to it. We were in discussion with our current pump and booster maintenance with General Pump. They proposed an extension to our current contract at a rate of, sorry, let me get to it,
Was it a 9% increase?
a 9.5% increase to continue our current existing contract out another 2 years. We also did include the rates for review. Please note the rates are rounded to the nearest dollar. We've been having a pump and booster maintenance contract for the past 5 years. This would extend out our current contract another 2 years, allowing us to continue on the trajectory now. And they had did for a marginal increase of 9.5%. We believe it's beneficial to the district as a cost-saving mitigation due to the rather large increases we've seen pretty much across the board in labor materials.
Have we had an increase in the last 5 years at all, any cost, CPI or anything?
We did, the board agreed to a 5%, I believe, last year to extend the contract for another year. This would kind of take another look at that. So there's only been one increase in the last 5 years, and that was 5% last year when we extended it. They do have a mock base bid schedule on page 31. They kind of round some certain items from our original proposal. They just updated those. And then page 32 has their hourly rate schedule for the various equipment. And then page 33 has their labor rates.
Yeah, they have crane rentals, welder, mine is 38. Field electrician is $143 an hour. Phew. I should have been an electrician, huh? So you're proposing that you want to bring it to the board to extend it for 2 years?
Would be seeking the committee's recommendation to take it to the board for
Or
consideration.
9% increase? I don't
With
know.
a 9.5% to extend it an additional 2 years.
You're happy with them, right?
Um,
I mean, General Pump does, pretty good work.
Yeah.
I don't know
Satisfied.
if they're, leaps and bounds above other pump companies, but, I mean, they've been around a long time. I've known them for a long time.
Yeah, I think the 9% is actually less than what the cost of living's been, the CPIs over the last couple of years. And Sean had thrown that out there and we thought, well, let's see if we could they had thrown out 9% for the next year. I said, well, could we look at that for 2 years? And they said they would honor that. So actually, I think I could recommend to the board to
So it'd be-
proceed with that.
4.5% increase.
Yeah, it's less than
Basically
CPI.
averaging 2 years, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think inflation is not, I mean, it's lower, but it's not going to disappear, so, anything you can lock in probably is pretty good.
It won't be less than 4.5% over the 2 years each year.
So
Sounds
the-
good
What
to
do you
me.
think?
Yeah.
You think
Yeah.
it's good?
Okay, thank
Okay.
you.
First, I thought I had lost my mind. I was like, I know I read that.
I know, I apologize, this is a rather lengthy packet, especially a couple
I
of the
know,
items we're
well-
getting to.
I saw the items and then I was thinking, well, is this related to the pipeline and well rehab construction and stuff? And I was going, it's not,
No.
so it's a different,
Okay, good.
okay, I just noticed that, on, page 146 in here, it's, you had 95 meters installed in 21, 86 in 22, 56 in 23, and 8 so far this year. So you're anticipating a continuing decrease in meter installations.
Yeah,
So what my thought was, that I did, and I don't remember this, but whether there is an elevation factor in our meter installation costs,
Elevation factor, for the
for additional costs for pumping
cost of
uphill.
living, oh, no, we do not.
So it's just anywhere in the district, it's a flat amount?
correct.
Yes.
Okay.
And then our production, we also reflect a 15% decrease, kind of indicative of the wet winter we've been having versus last year.
Last year was pretty wet too, wasn't it?
Yeah, production down 15% this year over last
For
month of February.
for the month of February. That's, yeah, on a 1 month basis, that can fluctuate. The last board packet, I noticed that the 3 month period where you have in there your, the averages, the monthly averages, they were almost identical to the previous 2 years. So it looks like those baseline numbers haven't really, even though we have more meters, they haven't really increased production. It's really flat, or it's just flat. I mean, it varies a little bit, but month to month. But the average consumption was basically very similar, so. Okay, anything else on item 5?
Nothing further.
All right, with that, we'd move to item 6.
Tony Winkle, who is the director of geology now, I think, at Mojave, requested a tour of Smith and Springs. They're going to be out here next week. We're giving them a tour of the artesian springs up there. We had CAL FIRE up there last week, a couple of days, starting to tidy up there. We're hoping we can get away with no machinery this year, just utilizing the CAL FIRE crews for a couple of days and kind of get that vegetation under control.
Yeah.
And other than that, nothing else really up
Okay.
there.
Yeah, I wish we could have made that into some kind of park, a rental space or something for camping and parties, or, anyways, but maybe in the future. State regulations, item 7. Is there anything additional?
I don't have anything.
Nothing other than we're anticipating a chromium MCL here in the next couple of months.
It's this year, huh?
Supposed to be. Same with,
Okay.
so we're getting ready to conduct UCMR 5, and if history repeats itself out of UCMR 1 through 4, there'll be some new constituents emerging really soon. Guessing
Yeah.
from what they're sampling this time, in organics, to a very low, it's recommended, they have travel blinks in these sample sets. Basically, it's a bottle you open to sample background atmosphere. It's suggested you don't wear like deodorant or hand sanitizer, nothing. So our water quality guy's gonna be a little funky when he samples here tomorrow. But those travel blanks are, when you get down into the part per trillion, they get real sensitive. So we'll see what the state pulls out of UCMR 5.
So if they come out with a chromium level this year, then that would give us maybe 4 years from now.
Correct. Or 2028 to be fully
2028
compliant.
would be, okay. All right. Item 8, review of current projects.
Well, happy to report well 15 is done, and we have the ribbon cutting ceremony flyer out in front of us today. I think we can scratch that as its project's complete unless there's any further questions.
No,
Well, number
It's
17,
running.
similar. We have our operating permit and it's been accepted into our production supply. And then the cause for the good chunk of our packet here is future well number 8. We've compiled just a quick background. There's 3 plausible options regarding the placement of well 18 with different operational tendencies existing between the 3. The first option is to connect the existing wells located at the former Meadowbrook Dairy by virtue of a 5.8 mile transmission pipeline. This option would eliminate drilling entirely. So the risk of drilling is negated. It would just require 5.8 miles of pipe. The second option is to utilize the existing well 15 transmission pipeline that we installed, drilling a new well south by southwest of well 15 because the proximity of electric. Out in that area, well 15 is the most northerly of serviced 3-phase power in the area. There could be potential and substantial costs to electrical if we seek to the north by northwest. We just have to bear that in mind for that option. The third option is to utilize the property currently owned by the district where the fill station is. And noting on that, CEQA has been completed, and infrastructure is there, eliminating the need for a transmission line. So there's 3 options, and staff's really seeking kind of direction because there's 3 operationally different proposals. Both have pros and cons. And again, option 1, running that pipeline down to the dairy, when we look at it, for about $1.6 million in today's dollars for that pipeline, and these figures were compiled last week. Ductile iron has mellowed out in price. C900 or DR18 has also come down as caustics come down. And both have some benefits. So option 1 promises to yield from the pump tests that were conducted in the past somewhere between 1,300 to 1,700 gallons a minute. The wells that are out there, we know the current yields. So a little bit safer in terms of knowing a quantity of water and knowing a quality of water. Option 2 is where we drill a new well. We obviously feel a lot more comfortable with the proximity of well 15 and the known data we have out of there. But again, drilling is a risk. I've seen water quality on the same 2-acre parcel of land change dramatically. Quantity of water went from 800 gallons a minute to 6,500, and those same 2 wells were separated by about 20 part per million in arsenic. And then option 3 is to drill at the fill station, and you'll notice our hypothesis for production really decreases there. Using the geotechnical data that Mojave's compiled, and we feel that 3 to 500 gallons a minute is being realistic. We just don't get the bang there that we see. And again, we use the data that we have out of well 8. Albeit the water quality is good in that area, the water quantity is not as substantial as, say, the dairy. And I can save us all from reading the whole memo out loud. Happy to answer any questions. I hope there's lots of them. In our packet, we compiled the theoretical blends for chromium and arsenic, our known water quality datas for all the wells at the Meadowbrook Dairy, maps kind of highlighting what the proposed pipeline alignments could look like, and the necessary infrastructure for each of these options.
Staff has been talking about this for some time, and I was initially very skeptical about option number one, which is the line down to the Meadowbrook area. It seems like a pretty big project. When Sean compiled the information on this, and we started looking at some of the work that had already been done on the pipeline alignment for the Chromium 6 project from several years ago, the plans are about probably 70% usable for most of that. There's an area where it leaves well 15 to where it connects into what the future alignment for the Chromium 6 project would be. CEQA's been completed on a lot of that. And I wanted to kind of look
How long ago
at.
was that?
What's that?
How long ago was the CEQA done?
2015?
Yeah,
And
2015.
we did confirm that it would require just an addendum to the already completed CEQA minimizing cost. And that can be done for potentially $15,000, although the consultant feels it can be substantially less.
So comparing the three projects, there's a lot of information there. And one of the things that I thought, well, I'll run some quick math and I'll look at the cost of the project, what we think it would be, and the yield from the well. This isn't not including pumping costs or anything like that. But it was quite interesting that option number one, which is the tying into the George's Field well down there. And I kind of picked the middle of the yields, are a little bit less than, we didn't go at the high end, and I took the estimate somewhere in the range of that. So if you were to look at option number one, it comes out to about $1,614 per gallon per minute, just for the project. Option number two, which is the one near well 15, comes out to $2,297 per gallon. The yield is a little bit lower. Construction costs aren't that far off. And option number three, which is tying into the fill station area, that's $3,627 per gallon of production. Just the estimated, and I think I used 400 for that one. We had 3 to 5, and I picked 400, so I kind of picked mid-range on everything. So reviewing it and beating this up time and time again, having Sean bring back more information, the dairy project seems like a very good option to explore from my perspective. I did have an opportunity to talk to legal counsel about, what could we do this like we did with the well 15? And after having a good discussion on that, he said his words were 100% confident that he would support that. But you have, the three options. You have a known quantity of water and water quality from the George's Field well, but you also have the option, and this is where some of the extra benefit comes in, of the wells on the property. The northwest corner well, which is how many what is that?
Approximately 300,
About
350.
another 300, 350 gallons per minute from that well.
That's the one we operate now. right?
Yeah, that's the one we operate right now. And there's going to have to be another well operating on that property. So we have two sources to provide water for Circle Green when they're doing their operations down there. So we're looking at options too about how could we combine these projects? Would that be a benefit? And the bottom line is, if that line were to be completed, they would have a great pressurized system. And we would be able to provide water easily to the dairy site in addition to the benefits that we have here.
And our calculations suggest that it's 148 PSI at the well discharge. So it eliminates the need for a booster station facility down at the dairy facility. We can basically build a high head well to feed directly into the transmission lines.
You could bump it all the
eliminating-
way up to 2,
Correct.
Yeah,
Site 2.
Yep.
the original Chromium 6 project would continue pumping up over to, I believe it was 11, 12 in that area.
Correct.
And so we would have had a booster to be able to get the water up that high. The elevation where we would tie in now is low enough to where they could do it with the well. And with our experiences with the PVC pipe from well 14 and the pressures that we experience, the ductile iron is not much more to go with the better quality pipe. So that could definitely be done.
And that's a 18-inch? Or 16?
It'll be a 12-inch.
12.
12?
Yeah.
And at our general manager's request, we did compile costs for ductile iron and DR18. Ductile iron's $1.10 more a foot is all. Almost.
There's no comparison on the quality of the pipe. or the
And we also
price.
spoke with pipe manufacturers, and we may be able to negotiate, if we buy the pipe in bulk, a discount of up to 5% off of the cost estimate found on page 2. So we might be able to shave a little bit of that cost on the ductile iron option. If we see the DR18 was 1.638 million, ductile iron was 1.669. So almost no cost difference, and we're confident we can negotiate 5% off that 1.669.
So the George's Field is what, like 1,000 gallons a minute?
It
Something
test
like
pumped
that?
at 1,350, and
Yeah.
in conversation with the former staff of the dairy, it can sustain easily 1,100.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's 1,000 or something. So you could add, like you said, maybe 13, at least 1,300 gallons a minute to the system.
Yeah, you would
What would you do with all that water?
It will, and then there's also a
Planning for
third
the
well
future.
option down there, well number 21, that for
That's the far well.
the one closer to Sheep Creek. We could tie that one in
on
as
the
well.
property, on the main Meadowbrook dairy,
Oh, near the,
solar.
not the little one, not the domestic, the other one?
No, yeah, it's the one, it's right at the corner of Sheep Creek and, is it Meridian?
Yeah. We used
Right,
to call it
right there by
northeast
the,
corner.
by the solar project.
Yeah, that was that was for the people living there.
Yeah.
It was a domestic well.
Yeah, so if you compare, and we didn't add the comparison in with those other wells, in the cost per gallon quick analysis that I did. But if the option number 3 is going to give you 400 gallons a minute. Option number 2, probably 700 gallons, 700 gallons a minute. This one is almost a guaranteed
It's-
double of the
it's
highest
doubling.
one.
Yeah.
Which, do we need that much water right now? No, but it's not a bad thing to have for the future.
So are there any red flags with the quality of George's well, or the
No.
arsenic is moderate? No chromium, but
Yeah, there was
there's a little bit of
some-
arsenic.
The theoretical blend works out to 4.83 part per billion. Well 22, I'm sorry, the names of wells, I'm a numbers person, so as we're calling it, is George's well, 22 is a concentration of 2.9 part per billion,
Of chromium. So
Correct.
there is a little chromium in there.
but not much.
Little chromium,
The
little arsenic.
George's well on its own is under the MCL. And just like we did with some of the other wells that we have, changing the pumping habits, we pumped it hard for 24 hours straight to get our readings.
Yeah,
But
it's a
by
good
changing
well.
the pumping habits of that well, we think we could probably even bring it down a little bit more. But it will be under the MCL that's coming out from the state. In the theoretical blend, by adding the northwest well, is going to dilute it even that much more.
And by
So
just
the only
locations.
issue with pumping that well would be whether it would pull contaminants in from Ducommon.
Yeah, up gradient from Ducommon.
Reversing gradient.
Yeah,
Which-
that would be the only
Which was
issue that I would
non-detect.
reflect on.
Yeah, we had the water quality samples, and I believe it was non-detect when they were pumping that, actually growing crops out there, and they had that well running a lot.
Yeah, it's, and they've been they've been stripping it out for all these years.
Yeah.
So most of that should have been mitigated.
Yes, yeah, the plume, we've seen the contours of the plume, and it went to the northeast, and this is
No, I know,
actually, yeah,
it's flowing
southwest
toward
up gradient.
Adelanto.
Yeah,
That was the only issue, was whether if we created a pumping hole there,
yeah.
it would reverse the flow.
Mhm.
I don't think it would. I mean, it's gonna be quite a while before this is built out enough that you would need 1,300 gallons a minute constantly from that area.
Yeah, if you think about that, that would be double what our best production well is, and our best production well right now is 15.
We did use well 15 as an analog for our construction costs and estimated timelines. Staff's confident and we can complete the 5.8 miles in 60 working days, and that's extrapolated from the lineal footage we were installing for well 15s, which had more valve and hydrant packages, and not as straight. And that's where we get our rental costs and our timeframes.
I would suggest also, if you want to take a trip out there, let's drive. It's hard to drive the alignment because there's some of it, there's no roads, but to actually see the location of the wells. And when we were out at well 15, we had a board member out there, and you look straight down there and you see the containers. It's,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
close enough to where it's like, that's
Straight
doable.
down the line. Well, that was always the end goal for a lot of long years to doing that study with Egan and stuff, was to hook that system up, because those wells are there.
Some of the benefits too, we're looking at the annexation of that area,
Yes?
and where there's water, they will build. You're going to have the opportunity for development in that area, because you would have a distribution system basically from well 15 all the way down to that dairy. It could be considered distribution based on the available pressure.
Is this the longest run that you've ever done at 5.8 miles?
This would be the longest run I've ever done.
So there wouldn't be any, difficulties that would pop up with that sort of distance?
There's one challenging area you cross, and we've crossed challenging gas mains before, Kinder Morgan. To be quite honest, the worst road I've ever dug in my career, well, there's two. Baldy Mesa, South Phelan Road, and then Amethyst, south of Bear Valley. Amethyst, south of Bear Valley was, yeah, well, we also found a 4-inch Baldy Mesa line we didn't know existed. We found that the hard way. But no, there's no
That's one Don
trepidation.
put in when he was manager.
Yeah, that was it. That was the tie-in between Baldy Mesa and Zone L.
No hesitation from myself or staff that we couldn't complete this in the time necessary.
There'd be some hand digging around that. It's a high pressure line, but there's a lot of safety precautions that the gas company requires.
And we talked, and the George's Well 22, is it? George's Well has a 50-foot sanitary seal, so it would
Correct.
meet
Well-
potable standards.
Yes. All wells except the one,
You'd have
It
to
was
redo
called-
the wellhead. It's right next to the road there, so you'd have
Correct.
to redo the wellhead.
the proposal I did budget out. Again, using well 15's costs,
Yeah,
3 to 500,000, which would even be able to equip it with a variable frequency drive and telemetry. It's worth noting that budgeted for the fiscal years 23-24 was the 100,000 for land acquisition. Budget fiscal years 24-25, 2 million. So 2.1 million in total for the project. Estimates for option 1 are 2.179 to 2.379. Again, if we can construct the pipeline a little faster, we get the equipment off rent, might be able to negotiate the 1.669 down 5%. Outfitting of and equipping of the wells, I do fear we're going to be right on budget on that.
And your estimate, you didn't take out the additional 5% that they may give you? So this is
This
at
is
full
actual.
price?
This is
So
full
there's
retail.
another way that you could reduce
Because they
costs.
would not guarantee me. They extremely likely, but no guarantee.
Okay.
So I didn't want to be presumptuous. This is worst case scenario. This is today's numbers.
Gotcha.
well, and if you use well 15 drilling, it's going to be more expensive than what you got for that.
And
Well-
we spent 1.1 on that.
Yeah, it's going to be
Those
higher
costs
than
have only
that.
gone up now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We
and
get
this is a
that, we get
project.
that with a pretty good price, so.
This project is under the Chromium 6 project too, and one of the things, I'm looking for is, okay, it's a little bit more than we have budgeted. We have 2.1, and it could be 2.18 or 2.3, but that is under the Chromium project, and we do have options with that too. For the we have the money set aside already for the Chromium 6 project. So that could be extended by a month or two, and that would cover any difference. But, from our perspective, or from my perspective, I like the option of going to the well, even though I was opposed to it at the beginning. After reviewing the information, it looks better and better all the time.
Because you get more production for the same cost, essentially.
I'm
Yeah.
happy to attest to Don's displeasure for this when it was first proposed by staff. Don was very apprehensive against the option number one.
I think I told him he was crazy.
Adamantly opposed, I think is the polite term.
Well, probably the biggest mitigating factor is you're getting basically 50, 60% more production already known. Even, a well near 15 is gonna produce, 600, 700, 800 gallons a minute. And the quality is good, we know that, but we already know what the quantity is down there, and so
It mitigates
You
risk.
it mitigates any risk, plus you already have them have you video logged that well recently, the George's well?
2015. So recently,
And the casing looked good?
the casing. looked in
That
very
would be
good
the
shape.
only, how old that casing is. Do you know what kind of material it was?
It's in the
Was it
packet.
standard,
Give me a moment.
standard steel? Yeah, I know, it's in the packet. I looked at the driller's log.
It's going to be 14-inch internal diameter louvered perforations, beginning at 280 feet, ending at 700 feet. Static water level 311.
Steel, I'm assuming it's just standard
Mild
steel.
steel.
Mild steel, yeah.
Page.
The louvers are a little more comfort level than the wrap.
Right,
Yeah,
right. It's
so it's a better
Moss
quality,
louvers,
yeah.
Yeah, so,
It's
the
page
water's not
50.
aggressive, so,
It is not.
yeah, so,
The water quality for that well is on page 50.
yeah.
With the general chemical analysis, you can kind of get just a quick overview. There's no constituents of concern.
So if you furnish a line and water from the bottom, from El Mirage Road, all the way up, is that gonna stimulate growth?
Now
Now
I
you
don't
got a
think
freeway
right away.
coming in, right?
Yeah, if the freeway comes in, anything like that comes in, we're perfectly positioned to provide, well, it would be our area anyhow if we
Yeah.
annex that.
Yeah.
But we would be
Which we're looking into.
we'd be in a perfect position to provide water to that, and with that growth will come, there might be something out there.
So in concert with annexing that area, putting a pipeline through would be
Yeah, it'd be.
probably reasonable.
So I think what we're looking for is, for the committee to consider it. And then if the committee thinks that, yeah, this is doable, we would take it to the board and get started with the basics. There's some surveying that would have to be done. There's some easements that need to be acquired. I think not many easements. I know there's one big parcel that it basically goes right down the middle of it, like an 80-acre parcel. But finishing up, getting the CEQA brushed up and kind of in place, and then just start hitting it at some point, or bringing it back with more information, I guess, because by the time we start gathering all that, we'll have some better solid costs. But if that's the direction the board would like, or if there's a recommendation, or if you want time to think about it.
Rebecca, do you have any additional comments?
No, I mean, I remember talking to Sean about this idea before, and, he was very passionate about it. So, obviously, he's the expert and you're the expert, but, it sounds like option one is definitely, the way to go.
The costs are so close.
Right.
That you're gonna get, by putting the two wells into the system, you're basically getting twice as much production for the same amount, essentially.
It
So-
became known affectionately as Project 4 for 1.
4 for 1?
There's 4 wells down there.
Yeah,
There you
well,
go.
I had to title it something.
we actually, the best well is actually across the highway,
Yeah.
but that's even
And-
further down.
So looking to the future from that, we probably need to address some of the concerns with that well, north of Ducommon at some point. That does need to be, it's really not prepared to talk about that one today.
No,
But you only would have about a half a mile
I know.
to add that well to the arsenal of the
know.
other wells.
Yes.
And with the 12-inch line, you could move probably water from those 2 wells easily through a 12-inch line. You don't need to have a 16. But move enough water through that, and you really might see it drop off in the future of all these little wells that we have, and just kind of mothball them or keep them clean in case of emergencies. But now our production is spread out over a large area. We're not all in the same cone of depression or anything.
No, this was the whole idea to spend all that money to get this pipeline plan. And we did get you said we did get the CEQA stuff on that pipeline was finished?
Yeah, the CEQA is completed for the majority of the pipeline. The only area that we would have to do CEQA on, or add the CEQA, is the area on the south end, which is closer to well 15.
And they're existing wells, so there's no additional costs. It's just the wellhead treatment, wellhead construction for
Wellhead
that.
construction, yeah, the well's constructed. Power is close for that, there's,
Power
Sean-
right there.
yeah,
It
power's
runs
right
up
there.
the street.
yeah. Wires are probably gone now, the tweakers
Well,
probably
yeah.
stole the wires, but
Yeah, no, you'll have to redo the whole thing.
And it
Sounds good
also-
to me, that's,
And touching on what Don mentioned, it diversifies our production portfolio because the circuit from Edison, Phelan is fortunate enough to be the endpoint for 3 terminations of Edison. Equipping the dairy would be the termination of 4 Edison circuits. It just diversifies our production capabilities that much further.
sounds reasonable, logical to me.
yeah, okay. Well, with that,
And it would be the least expensive in, per acre foot.
yeah, so I think what I would recommend is that we still leave 1, 2, and 3. Bring it to the board.
Bring
Yeah.
this packet to the
And
board.
yeah, because we don't want to just jump and go, okay, we're here to give you the information.
No,
for
bring the
others, but-
packet and then say that, the engineering committee recommended the pipeline.
And we'll probably have, by the time we get it to the board, we'll probably have more information as we start looking at if that's,
And highlight the known quantities and that it would be basically almost double the production of one new well.
Would it be helpful if I simplify this? I know this was a lot of technical raw data. I can kind of pretty this up.
If you had a summary
cut out
page,
100 pages out of it, Sean.
Yeah,
We can summarize some of
Yes.
this and
yeah. But, I mean, the first 3 pages were perfect. It was easy to understand. I got that and everything. Maybe add the 1350 and the 700 and the 400 in there, just, that would have, popped for me and. the-
Under
you
each,
know.
under each scenario. So-
Right, yes,
So, one is, I forget, one is the pipeline. That would, under current conditions, we would be adding around, say, 1,300 gallons a minute.
1,400 to 1,700 gallons
that's
per
right.
minute.
Yeah,
I stand corrected. It is there.
it's in there? Okay. At
Thank you,
a,
Chris, for that recommendation.
at a cost of, whatever the,
Yeah. Mark
Versus
says if
the
it's
other ones.
1350, it's 1100.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
we
got
can
it.
summarize and kind of tighten that
It
up
was
and
there.
bring it for the board's consideration.
Perfect.
Yeah. And it won't be for approval to do it, obviously. It'll just be so we can concentrate and refine the project up to the point where we're ready to.
well, you would want some consensus to finish.
Yeah.
Redo whatever you have to do to CEQA, to the alignment, to things like that.
Yeah. Yeah. And at that point, when the board, if the board chose that project, then we would start getting all the information, you know, to move the CEQA forward, so we're not held up at the end. And I honestly believe this is a great option.
If there's a consensus to move on that option, then you could come back with a cost.
Yeah, we'd have more
Because then you
refined
could
costs.
spend the time to nail down what the cost would be.
Okay.
Sounds good. So the money we spent 9 years ago won't
Yes.
go to waste.
Yes, so the plans for that project, we're looking at the plans, they were about 50% complete. And when it's 50% completion, the alignments are there, the survey's been done, the pipeline's drawn on the plans, but when we said the project was 50% complete, we were looking at blending facilities and everything, so all of
Right.
that is just kind of knocked
Right.
off. So we have probably, I would be willing to bet that what we have, and then adding the last part of the design, we're probably 75% of the way there.
So that's what should be mentioned also when it goes to the board, is that the original studies done in 2015 or whatever, a lot of it basically has already been done.
Yeah, all the test pumping we did on the wells.
The
to-
test pit, I remember reading Dodson's stuff on, you know, the shrubs and I think the only mitigating factor was dust control, really, for putting a pipeline in.
Yeah, there was a stream crossing at one point.
Yeah, some
And
washes.
yeah, but I
There's
think
washes,
that,
but-
I don't know
but-
if that's further to the west. I know it occurred further to the west, but I don't know if it actually crosses down that far.
I know he had some red squirrel and turtles and
The
all kinds of
washes
stuff
was gonna
in
be
there.
the Sheep Creek wash to the west. For
Okay,
the
okay,
original
further to the
blending
west.
Facility located at 10, 11, 12. We don't cross any ephemeral streams with this.
Oh, that
perfect.
was going the other way,
Yeah,
right.
yeah, I knew it was to the west,
This
but I
is-
didn't know if it actually crossed.
We were fortunate enough to spend a year while we were working on well 15 staring at the property, and it's kind of what led to the passion for this one. And then we start compiling the numbers, and I wish I could find some more negatives. It pencils out,
No, the production is what turns the corner on it, I think.
certainly.
And when we have the ribbon cutting for well 15, it'd be a great opportunity when we're standing out there to go,
Okay, so set up big powerful binoculars and say, okay, now look,
Put a
there's,
sign.
everybody can look and see where
Yes.
all the storage containers are, and that would be the line.
"Yep, you won't need binoculars."
Well,
Yeah.
some of us might. Sounds good. I mean, that it's just logical when you start penciling out the numbers, that
Yeah.
it starts to work.
When you look at the actual cost, there's not a big difference when you look at the production.
No, you're doubling production for essentially the same cost. If it's 2 million plus or minus, it's not 5 million, it's 2
Right.
million, couple $100,000 either way. The Sheep Creek property, I just think the production would be very low for that. I mean, I think we're looking at 350 gallons a minute, and that's, to drill a 800,000 foot well, that's expensive.
Yeah, so I kind of refer to the Sheep Creek property as kind of our fallback in case of an
Yeah,
emergency. If we needed to have a well within the next year, seek was done, power's there, it could be drilled. Again, it's not going to be a big production well, but you may never have that kind of need again, because that's basically, with the two wells, probably double our production
Oh.
between 15 and 18.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so we've doubled our production with two wells.
Yeah.
And they feed into the same zones as the potential well 16 at the fill station. Staff ran CEQA there as a backup plan to 15, so we had a fail-safe, and continue to keep it kind of in reserves as a backup plan. And a lot of the grant opportunities want to see CEQA completed projects, so we have that as bait.
Yeah. That logical and cost efficient. All right, anything else for future well number 18? Tank 6A. So they approved funding. I don't know whether that's gonna get us the 2 million or not.
Yep, we were approved.
So they're already working on CEQA and also on some of the geotechnical work, do some boring to check the compaction and everything. So we're getting some proposals on that to bring to the board.
All right. Excellent. Staff report. I think we've covered everything. Action items. I guess bringing that prior meeting, we didn't have any, right? Current OSD production numbers.
Just that.
Yeah,
Item.
that's kind of an ongoing until Watermaster meets. Now we have bringing this packet to the board when you want to move ahead with that project.
Yeah. Also,
So-
tomorrow at 11 a.m., they're having at Mojave, they're having the OSD sub-area workshop, where if anybody wants to attend that.
What's that?
It's talking about the basin and the models and the ramp down.
When's that, tomorrow?
Tomorrow at 11 a.m.
That's down in Apple Valley?
Yes.
In a workshop, is that Watermaster or
It's going to be the Watermaster staff putting it on.
putting it on?
Yeah.
Okay. Current action items, just bringing that item to the board. Future well 18, that item. Anything else?
We will be bringing a booster and well maintenance contract before the board for consideration.
Oh, yeah, that's, well, that will be, that's not an action item. Yeah, okay. A 2-year extension,
Yes, sir.
okay. Anything else? With that, we will adjourn the meeting at 5:28. Thank you, everybody.